We are discussing physics sample paper of 2021. In part 1, we have discussed section A and section B questions. Now this is part 2, in which we'll discuss section C questions. That is from question number 17 to question number 25. Question number 17 is two straight infinite long current carrying wires are fixed in space and the current through them is 2 ampere directed out of the plane of the page, and in the right wire it is 3 ampere directed into the plane of the page. In which regions on the x-axis the magnetic field can be equal to 0 due to these two current carrying wires. Okay, first let's draw the magnetic field lines due to 2 ampere current carrying wire and due to the 3 ampere current carrying wire. We know that due to an infinite long current carrying wire, the magnetic field lines are concentric circles. Using the right hand thumb rule, we draw the direction of these magnetic field lines. So due to 2 ampere current carrying wire, these are the magnetic field lines. The same way, using the right hand thumb rule, we draw the magnetic field lines due to 3 ampere current carrying wire. So due to 3 ampere current carrying wire, these will be the directions of the magnetic field lines. These are the concentric circles, and using right hand thumb rule, we have drawn the direction. Okay, now let's see in region 1. Let us consider a point P, which is at R1 distance from 2 ampere current carrying wire, and it is at R2 distance from 3 ampere current carrying wire. Okay, now in this region, that is at point P in region 1, the magnetic field due to 2 ampere current carrying wire, let it is B1, and due to 3 ampere current carrying wire, let it is B2. Okay, so here we see that at this point, that is in region 1, B1 and B2 are in opposite direction. B1 will be in the downward direction, drawing a tangent over here. Due to 3 ampere current carrying wire, if we draw the tangent, it will be in the upward direction. So B1 and B2 are in the opposite direction. So the net magnetic field will be equal to the difference of these two. Now, due to an infinite long current carrying wire, we know that the magnetic field is mu naught I upon 2 pi r. Due to 2 ampere current carrying wire, mu naught I1 upon 2 pi into R1. I1 here is 2 ampere. So 2 mu naught upon 2 pi R1. Whereas B2 here is due to 3 ampere current carrying wire, let it is I2 mu naught I2 upon 2 pi R2. I2 here is 3 ampere, 3 mu naught upon 2 pi R2. Now the net magnetic field in this region, that is in region 1, okay, that is at point P, will be equal to difference of these two, B1 minus B2. Taking mu naught upon 2 pi outside, inside the bracket, 2 by R1 minus 3 by R2. Now here we see that R2 is greater than R1. So the magnetic field can be equal to 0 in this region. Okay, so the magnetic field can be equal to 0. Let's take an example. R2 is greater than R1. Let R2 is 3 units, R1 is 2 units. So 3 upon 3, 2 upon 2, it becomes 1, 1 minus 1, it is 0. So in the first region, the magnetic field can be equal to 0. Whereas in region 2, the magnetic field B1 and B2 both are in the same direction. So it can never be equal to 0. So in region 2, the magnetic field can never be equal to 0. Why? Because the magnetic field due to these two wires are in the same direction. So the magnetic fields will be added up. So can be never equal to 0. Whereas in the third region, again, the magnetic field will be in the opposite direction. Let us consider a point Q, which is at R1 distance from 2 ampere current carrying wire and R2 distance from 3 ampere current carrying wire. So the net magnetic field will be equal to mu naught upon 2 pi. Let's take it common. Okay, B1 will be equal to, due to this, due to the 2 ampere current carrying wire, which is 2 upon R1 minus 3 upon R2. Now here we see that R1 is greater than R2. Okay, let's take an example. Suppose this is 3, this is 2. R1 is 3 units, R2 is 2 units. So 2 upon 3 minus 3 upon 2 can never be equal to 0. So again in this region, it cannot be equal to 0. Why? Because R1 is greater than R2. So this bracket term can never be equal to 0. So it cannot be equal to 0 in this region 3 also. Okay, so only in region 1, the magnetic field can be equal to 0. So only in region 1, the magnetic field can be equal to 0. Question number 18. Draw the graph showing intensity distribution of fringes with phase angle due to diffraction through a single slit. So here we have to plot intensity with the phase angle. In diffraction pattern, we know that the angular width for the dark bands is given by n lambda by A, where A is the width of the slit. Whereas for the bright bands, the angular width is 2n plus 1 lambda by 2a. So here we see that this is the central maximum where the intensity is maximum, and the first dark band, substituting n is equal to 1, we get lambda by a. That is, the first dark band is formed at lambda by a on either side. Above the central maxima, it is lambda by a, and below the central maxima, it will be minus lambda by a. Okay, then the second dark band will be 2 lambda by a. It will be formed at 2 lambda by a. The same way, below it will be minus 2 lambda by a. Here we see that the intensity of the first bright band, that is first secondary maxima, it decreases. The intensity of the central maxima is maximum, whereas the third dark band is formed at 3 lambda by a on either side. Okay, so the intensity of the central maxima is maximum, and with the increase in the order of the secondary maxima, the intensity decreases. Also, the width of the central maxima is double the width of any of the other secondary maxima. It is a choice question. The choice part is what should be the width of each slit to obtain n maxima of double slit pattern within the central maxima of single slit pattern. So given in the question that the width of the maxima in interference pattern should be equal to the width of the central fringe in the diffraction pattern. We know that the width of maxima in interference pattern is n lambda by d, where d is the distance between the two slits, whereas the width of the central maxima in the diffraction pattern is 2 lambda by a, where a is the width of that single slit. So here you have to find out n. So n is equal to 2d upon a. Question number 19th. Deduce an expression for the potential energy of a system of 2 point charges Q1, Q2 located at R1 and R2 respectively in external electric field E. So here work done in bringing Q1 charge from infinity to this electric field at R1 distance. That work done, let it is equal to W1, which is equal to Q1 into the potential at R1 distance. The same way, work done in bringing Q2 from infinity in the electric field at R2 distance, let it is equal to W2, which is equal to Q2 into the potential at R2 distance. Okay, also there will be some work done between these 2 point charges, which is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon the distance between these two charges, let it is equal to R12. So the potential energy of the system is equal to work done in assembling the system. That is, it is equal to W1 plus W2 plus W3. So we get the potential energy, let it is U, is equal to Q1 potential at R1 distance plus Q2 the potential at R2 distance plus 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2, which are separated by R12 distance. So this is the potential energy. The choice part is establish the relation between electric field and electric potential at a point. Okay, let there is a charge plus Q, and due to this charge, the electric field is pointing away. Let us consider 2 points in this electric field, and our test charges move through a distance dr opposite to the electric field. So the amount of work done in moving the test charge through a small distance dr will be equal to dw, which is equal to minus E into dr. Why? Because electric field is pointing towards right and the test charge is moved in the opposite direction. So it is minus E into dr. Now this work done per unit test charge, we call it as the potential difference. So the small potential difference between the points A and B is this work done dV is equal to minus E into dr, and hence electric field is equal to minus dV by dr, that is, it is the negative of the potential gradient. Draw the equipotential surface for an electric field pointing in plus Z direction with its magnitude increasing at a constant rate along minus Z direction. Let this is Z axis. This is the origin, so this will be minus Z axis. Now here we have to draw one equipotential surface. So equipotential surface will be a plane perpendicular to this Z axis. That is, this plane is representing the equipotential surface. Question number 20th. Explain with help of circuit diagram the action of a forward biased PN junction diode which emits spontaneous radiation. Okay, so the forward biased PN junction diode and it emits spontaneous radiation is LED, light emitting diode. Let's draw its circuit diagram. This is the PN junction diode and it has to be forward biased. That is, P is connected to positive and N is connected to negative, and there is a load resistance in between. This is the circuit diagram and it emits light. So the light is emitted whenever it is forward biased, it emits light. Here the electrons move from N to the P side and the holes move from P to the N side. And these charge carriers, they recombine near the junction and the energy is released in the form of photons. Okay, now it's also asked that state the least band gap energy of this diode to have emission in visible region. For the visible region, we know that the wavelength lies from 0.45 micrometer to 0.7 micrometer. So the corresponding energy gap will be from 2.8 electron volt to 1.8 electron volt. So the least band gap energy will be equal to 1.8 electron volt. Question number 21. A coil of wire enclosing an area 100 centimeter square is placed with its plane making an angle 60 degree with the magnetic field of strength 10 raised to the power minus 1 Tesla. What is the flux through the coil? We know that the magnetic flux is given by B into A into cos theta, where B is the magnetic field, A is the area, and theta is the angle between B and area vector. Okay, now we know that area vector is normal to the plane of the coil. So here theta will be equal to this angle which is given. It is the plane of the coil making with the magnetic field. But here this theta is normal to the plane of the coil making with the magnetic field. So as the plane of the coil is making 60 degree with the magnetic field. So normal to the plane of the coil making with the magnetic field will be 90 degree minus 60 degree. That is, it is equal to 30 degree. Now substituting the values, D is 10 raised to the power minus 1 Tesla. A is 100 centimeter square. That is 100 into 10 raised to the power minus 4 meter square into cos of angle between B and A is 30 degree. So on simplifying it, we get root 3 upon 2 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 Weber. Also, you have to find out if the magnetic field is reduced to 0 in 10 raised to the power minus 3 seconds, then find the induced EMF. According to Faraday's law, we know that induced EMF is equal to minus d phi upon dt, where d phi is the change in magnetic flux in the change in time dt. Here the change in the magnetic flux is 0 to root 3 by 2 into 10 raised to the power minus 3. In the time 10 raised to the power minus 3 seconds. So we get root 3 by 2 volts as you are finding out the induced EMF. So it is equal to root 3 by 2 volts, whereas the magnetic flux is root 3 by 2 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 Weber. Question number 22. Two waves from two coherent sources S and S dash superimpose at X as shown in the figure. If X is a point of the second minima and Sx minus S dash X is 4.5 centimeter. Calculate the wavelength of the waves. So this is the interference pattern and the path difference is given as 4.5 centimeters. Okay, so Sx minus S dash X, this is the path difference which is given as 4.5 centimeters. Let the path difference be denoted by X, and in case of an interference pattern, for minima, the path difference should be equal to odd integral multiple of lambda by 2, because the phase difference is odd integral multiple of pi. So the path difference will be odd integral multiple of lambda by 2, that is 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. Here it is the second minima, that is n is equal to 2. So 2 into 2, 4 minus 1, that is 3 lambda by 2. And this path difference is given as 4.5 centimeters. So lambda is equal to 4.5 into 2 upon 3, that is equal to 3 centimeters. So the wavelength is 3 centimeters. Question number 23. Draw the energy band diagram when the intrinsic semiconductor germanium is doped with impurity atoms of antimony. Name the extrinsic semiconductor so obtained and the majority charge carriers in it. Okay, when the intrinsic semiconductor is doped with pentavalent impurity atoms. Antimony is pentavalent impurity atom. So when it is doped with pentavalent impurity atoms, the extrinsic semiconductor so obtained is N-type extrinsic semiconductor. So it is the N-type extrinsic semiconductor, and the majority charge carriers in N-type semiconductors are electrons. Okay, also you have to plot the energy band diagram. So here I show the energy band diagram. This is the energy band diagram for N-type of extrinsic semiconductor. Okay, this is the valence band. Above the valence band, there is the conduction band. Okay, now here the majority charge carriers are electrons. So all these majority charge carriers, electrons, they form a donor energy level just below the conduction band. How much? 0.01 electron volt below the conduction band. So from here the electrons can easily jump into the conduction band. This energy band, that is the energy gap, this is the energy gap, it decreases. Okay, also few electrons jump from the valence band to the conduction band, leaving some holes over here. Okay, otherwise the majority charge carriers are electrons only, which can easily jump to the conduction band. Hence the conductivity of N type of extrinsic semiconductor increases. Why? Because these majority charge carriers, these are forming a energy level, that is the donor energy level just below the conduction band, And from here, the electrons can easily reach to the jump to the conduction band. So this energy gap decreases. So that is why its conductivity increases. Okay, so it is N-type extrinsic semiconductor and the majority charge carriers are electrons. Question number 24. Define the terms magnetic inclination and horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. Magnetic inclination here is also called as the angle of dip. So angle of dip is the angle which the resultant Earth's magnetic field in magnetic meridian making with the horizontal. So this angle which the resultant Earth's magnetic field at any place in the magnetic meridian. This B is the resultant Earth's magnetic field in the magnetic meridian at any place on the Earth's surface is making some angle with the horizontal. This angle we call it as angle of dip. And horizontal component is, if we resolve this B in two components, the component which is along horizontal, this component we call it as the horizontal component of the Earth's magnetic field. Establish the relation between the two with the help of a diagram. So this is the magnetic meridian, and in the magnetic meridian, this is the resultant Earth's magnetic field at a place, which we can resolve in two components. This component BH, we call it as the horizontal component, and along the vertical, this component we call it as the vertical component. Okay, now we have to find out the relation between the two. The relation is, as you can see from the figure, the horizontal component is B cos delta, whereas the vertical component is B sin delta. Squaring and adding these two equations, we get B square is equal to BH square plus BV square. Okay, also dividing these two equations, we get tan delta is equal to BV upon BH, the vertical component upon the horizontal component. The tan of angle of dip is BV upon BH. There is a choice in this question. So the choice part is horizontal component of the Earth's magnetic field at a place is √3 times the vertical component. So given in the question that BH is equal to √3 times BV, that is the vertical component. Now we know that BH is equal to B into cos delta √3, BV is equal to B into sin delta. So sin delta upon cos delta, which is tan delta, is equal to 1 upon √3. So delta is equal to 30 degree. Hence the angle of dip or the angle of inclination is equal to 30 degree. Question number 25. Write two characteristics of image formed by an object placed between optical center and focus of a thin convex lens. So here we place the object between optical center and focus of a convex lens, and let's see how is the image formed. So the two refracted rays are diverging from each other. So when we extend them backwards, they appear to meet at a point. So the image which is formed is on the same side where the object is placed. So two characteristics. The first one, the image formed is virtual and erect. Second point, it is formed on the same side where the object is placed. Also, we see that the image is magnified, that is bigger than the object. Draw the graph showing the variation of image distance V with the object distance U in this case. So here, using the lens formula, 1 by F is equal to 1 upon V minus 1 by U. In this case, we see that V and U both are negative according to the sign convention. So 1 upon V is equal to 1 upon U minus 1 by F. So here we see that U is negative. So the graph between V and U is as shown. whereas the graph between 1 by u and 1 by v will be a straight line. So we have completed section C questions, that is from question number 17 to question number 25. Each question in this section is of 2 marks and there are 3 internal choices. Now section D and section E will be discussing in the coming parts. So in order to watch that, kindly subscribe to the channel and keep watching. Thank you.